The golden age of television.
I Love Lucy didn't just change American television, it invented American television.
Back when one screen brought everyone together.
Watching television was a family event.
The shows that shaped us.
The Brady Bunch was part of the American soul.
It's timeless.
The familiar faces.
Ralph Cramden was loved by the honeymooners. He was a presence.
The unforgettable moments.
Dynasty captured the essence of what the 1980s were about in America.
These are their stories.
Cheers is the pinnacle of how great the sitcom can be.
This is TV we love. The year is 1993. Bill Clinton is in the White House. Grunge is spilling out of Seattle basements. And America is halfway between analog comfort and the digital revolution.
You've got mail.
The internet is something you dial into. Coffee house culture is fueling Gen X. And everyone's dancing the Macarena. And deep in the heart of Utah, one television show is about to take flight and make television history.
I have a message for you from God.
Audiences love Touched by an Angel.
I'm an angel.
A what?
Touched by an Angel was that kind of a show. Whole families could watch together.
The fact that it was so overwhelmingly popular made it a phenomenon.
At our height, I think we had over 28 million each week. Holy is right.
And I love that because we talked about immigration, abortion, racism.
And it did melodrama really well.
There still has never been another Touched by an Angel.
I love the origin story of Touched by an Angel.
TV networks at that point, they were looking for something that would work for as large an audience as possible.
In the mid-90s, CBS did testing that showed people were really interested in angels.
And I can understand why they would think angels would be something that they could tap into as a cultural vein. So angels have always been around, and they've always been popular.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right.
In the 90s, a lot of pop stars began using angels in their shows. Tony Kushner's play, Angels in America, came out about that time. There was a book published in the early 90s by Sophie Burnham on angels, and that became a big bestseller. Tattooed wings on people's backs. It was just a cultural moment.
So CBS commissioned John Macias to write a show about angels because this is what their testing showed them people were interested in watching.
I remember getting a phone call from my agent. He said, I have an opportunity for you to come in and read, to play an undercover angel. I said, like is she an angel with wings? Like, is it a Victoria's Secret angel? Like, what kind of an angel are we talking about? He said, I don't know much more than that. Just make sure you sound American. Don't sound foreign. And so during the conversation after the audition, one of the producers said to me, could you try that with your Irish accent? And I thought, oh, here we go. I'll be the interesting Irish choice, but then they'll end up casting an American, you know? I started doing one of the big speeches with my Irish accent. And honestly, I could see everybody in the room leaned in.
John Macias, brilliant writer, created a pilot with angels who were, shall we say, angels with dirty faces.
They did one version of it that was darker than the one we know now.
His version was hipper. The angels smoked and they said dumb things about the boss because people always rip on their boss. But the network thought, well, no one's going to want you to be mad at your boss if he's God.
Monica dropped from heaven into Santa Monica Bay, and that's where she got her name, because then she meets some guys on the beach. she says, where are we? And they say Santa Monica. And then somebody says, what's your name? Later, and she goes, Monica.
It was kind of dark. Della Reese's character, Tess, drank as an angel and dropped some language bombs. They resurrected a dead dog in the middle of the show. It was a very odd show.
And they screened it for focus groups, and nobody particularly liked it.
It didn't test very well, but something about the idea, the premise of the show still resonated with CBS.
And they brought in Martha Williamson, who reconceived it.
CBS has started a conversation with me about an angel show because I was the angel girl. I was the lady who went to church and believed in God. And so they said, go call Martha. They gave me carte blanche at CBS to do anything I wanted to with the original pilot. And I said to them, I want to throw the whole thing out and start over. And they said, that's just fine, throw it all out. I said, except for Della and Roma. I interviewed them. They were perfect together. It was lightning in a bottle.
She totally changed the nature of the show to make it more upbeat, more wholesome, more family-oriented.
I don't know what it is, but I get a good feeling about you.
They said, you know what? That's where we want to go. Let's call it Touched by an Angel. I said, oh, please don't call it Touched by an Angel. That's such a weird title. But they said, we're going with Touched by an Angel. And I said, all right. But then I realized later that people were touched, that they were moved. And that was my mandate. How do we move people with these shows and these scripts every week?
Touched by an Angel essentially took the premise of It's a Wonderful Life and turned it into a procedural drama. It's like a cross between It's a Wonderful Life and Law and Order.
The idea for Touched by an Angel was that an angel in training would be guided by an older angel to help people here on Earth who were at a crossroads in their life to make a decision that would lead them closer to God.
These angels were able to show up at these times of great pain and offer some light to the darkness.
And God would sort of give them an assignment. They were the assignment of the week.
And how am I supposed to help him then?
Well, baby, the only way to share this man's pain is to share his pain.
Usually the younger angel, who is played by Roma Downey, would come to a town, and Della Reese, who was her guardian, would bring her into a situation where she has to help someone at a crossroads find God and find God's love.
Roma was meant to be Monica. She had a long history of working in the theater in London, but she was relatively new to Hollywood.
Who are you?
My name is Tess, and you may call me Miss Tess.
Della Reese was a big star.
I got myself an angel standing here by my side.
Della Reese was mostly known early on as a great singer. Had these amazing hits in the 50s. Then Della got into film and acting, and she was very funny.
I know what I just said, but sometimes I don't think you have the sense God gave the goat.
And I wanted to take advantage of that.
I suppose we should get started. Are you ready?
My agent had said, well, there's good news and there's bad news. The pilot's been picked up. And I said, great. And what's the bad news? You're moving to Salt Lake City. I didn't know anything about Salt Lake City, except I had put one of my very first posters I had on the wall of my childhood bedroom in Northern Ireland was of Donny Osmond. And Donny Osmond was from Salt Lake City.
CBS wanted to shoot in Salt Lake for budgetary reasons. We didn't have much of a budget. And frankly, a lot of people really didn't have a lot of hopes for the show. So they weren't really giving us all that we needed.
Touched by an Angel got off to a slow start.
We had an order for 13 episodes. A full order, I think, was 22.
Critics, at least in the beginning, were not terribly kind. But let's remember that this program is coming out when television is starting to really have some more serious artistic ambitions.
This was the dawn of the prestige TV era. We were just getting into an age where cable was showing its force. HBO, for the first time, was doing original series, and critics were starting to really gravitate towards those more complicated types of shows.
3 Emmys, you're at the very top of the dung heap.
Touched by an Angel was not a complicated show. It was not a critic-friendly show.
One of the reviews in TV Guide was, this show will probably be off the air before you even read this.
You know, we're bounced around from time slot to time slot.
And it's hard for a show to pick up traction and to find a loyal audience if the audience doesn't know what night it's going to be on or what time it's going to be on.
They put it Wednesday night at 9, which is sort of crazy because this is a kind of show that you would watch with a family, and you'd want your kids to come watch it because of the nice, wholesome values. So 9 was a little late, and they were about to kill it.
They started airing it, but then they put a pin in it, and that pause pin is usually the kiss of death.
My first commandment is, thou shalt not forgive.
God does forgive.
Not in LA.
To me, this was just the way it worked. Well, of course this will get canceled, and that's just, you know, the usual way things go out here.
Touched by an Angel premiered on CBS when CBS was a low-rated network. It was in 3rd place, even 4th place at times, and they were really struggling to find their way and get a new audience. That's why Touched struggled as well, constantly moving time slots, not really finding any sort of traction.
The ratings were sort of just marginal that first season.
And yet Touched by an Angel started to do well in the flyover states. It became a hit in the South and in the middle of the United States before it kind of penetrated the coasts. Particularly for people of faith, there was nothing like this on television. It was almost like we were a bit of a joke, that we had a show that talked about God respectfully. You know, it wasn't the norm at that time, at any time, really.
By the end of the first season of Touched, the word had gotten out that there was a show that didn't make fun of people who believed in God. And they were starting to come around the show and support it, only to discover that we were, in fact, on the bubble.
There was a big campaign for people to write in and try to save the show.
Fans began to write in and say how much they loved the show.
You know, this was like people literally taking to writing letters, making phone calls.
Save Touched by an Angel. USA Today did a big, big push to help save the show.
We're so grateful to the fan base for activating. They made a lot of noise.
Hallelujah! And even though we were limping to the next green light, they would drop us another one. Okay, you can do one more.
We don't know what our fate's going to be, but we're going to, you know, do our damnedest to make a great show.
Then they tried us out on Saturday night on what they called America's Night of something. And it was Dr. Quinn, they had the Chuck Norris Walker, Texas Ranger, and they had Touched by an Angel. So it was a big family night show.
The second season had come and gone. It wasn't their biggest nightmare, but certainly, why keep it around?
We were on the chopping block until Les Moonves came in and said, wait, something's going on here. And he saw the potential. If numbers keep growing, you find a place where to give them a chance to grow. And that wonderful soil was Sunday night at 8 o'clock.
We landed in that Sunday night time slot, and then it sort of all clicked.
Which in hindsight makes total sense. A religious-oriented show on Sunday night, of course. And I think that audience found it as well.
Putting Touched by an Angel on Sunday night was sort of a slam dunk. How silly of you. Of course, people who were of that part of the audience were going to go to church, be with family, end the day by watching the show with their kids.
So that really helped. moving the time slot paid off with Touched by an Angel turning into a mega hit for CBS.
And before you know it, we had 15 million people, 18 million people, 20 million people. We found a very comfortable home in the top 10 for years and years. There were even times when we beat Friends and ER.
Nowadays, a show can get 1 million people, and that's considered a hit.
It was really exciting, frankly, because suddenly you thought, wait, I'm on a hit. This doesn't happen very often. 20 million people were watching this show every Sunday night.
They were trying to reach as wide a demographic as possible because the specificity of religion was never mentioned. You know, these were not Mormon angels or Catholic angels. They were just angels.
God won't let you down.
The whole thing is essentially about God, but it's got nothing to do with religion. There is no doctrine, short of a few things. God loves you.
Have you got something against God? Yes.
But short of that, this is not denominational. They're really careful that these are unbranded angels.
It was very much a spiritual show, not necessarily a Christian show.
There were so many stories that came from the personal lives and the personal passions of our writers, and they put their hearts and souls into it, and it shows up all over the screen.
Action! I don't want to out them, but I'm rather sure there are heathens in the writing staff.
Not everyone sort of were churchgoers.
I was like the token Catholic. We had New Age people. We had Jewish people.
I'm Jewish. Glenn Berenbein was Jewish. We had writers of every faith. As Martha always said, this is a show about spirituality, not religion.
Hello, I'm Monica.
We tried our best to be a water cooler show.
You can be my age. Back off, I'm working here.
You know, CBS, they didn't just want to preach to the choir. Big broadcaster, they want a broad net. They want to get everybody to watch their show.
So I think they were going for a very inclusive perspective. One is Black, one is white, one is young, the other is older, where almost any kind of American could feel comfortable watching it. And obviously they did, since the show at its high point was watched by 25 million people. That's astounding in today's television markets.
There were other really big shows happening at the time, but the fact that Touched by an Angel was neck and neck with ER says something about what the audience wants and is hungry for.
What made Touched so groundbreaking was that we did more than entertain.
I know that you have the AIDS virus. Oh my God.
That we really got into some of the deep stuff that you wouldn't have expected to see at 8 o'clock on a family show on Sunday night.
I think audiences love Touched by an Angel because every week they knew they could see a story that was surprising.
Touched by an Angel dealt with tough subjects.
Our whole family could sit together and watch a TV show and talk about it and maybe bring up a subject that we wouldn't have talked about otherwise.
You think you can hide behind this Bible or that phony smile or a white sheet? I know who you are, you hate monger.
People think of it somehow as a soft show, but we dealt with very dark material. There were episodes about everything from alcoholism to divorce to death to child trafficking.
We did an episode about a young man with HIV.
It doesn't matter that they're HIV positive up here.
I should think that it matters very much. I felt like nobody ever shied away from, you know, real important social issues, things that were important to families. Everything from illness to, you know, alcoholism or drug addiction or suicide, you know, the things that can break a family.
Detective McCovey has something to say.
We don't want to hear from him.
I was a cop, and I shot and killed a black kid because a black guy killed my wife. And there's a speech that I give in a church saying that I was mad at all of you, and it was a black church because of that, and I'm sorry.
Never thought of myself as a bigot before, but I guess I was.
Good episode.
We understood who was watching, and we didn't want to do anything to alienate them, but we also wanted to challenge them sometimes to, let's show grace to everybody.
People got certain messages of encouragement and faith week after week after week.
And that's such a powerful message. I think that's why people at its heart love the show. And I'll also give full credit to Roma Downey and Della Reese and John Dye. It was a wonderful, magical sort of casting of these three actors who are all beautiful human beings, and that came across on screen.
Roma Downey was beautiful, but not sexy, which made her attractive to women as much as she might have been to men. And she was such a gentle character that kids could probably relate to her very easily.
Sometimes, Joey, you have to remember the bad things so that you can learn from them.
So Roma Downey grew up in Northern Ireland and had a very, very hard-scrabble childhood. I think maybe because of that difficult childhood, the struggles just to survive, she always has had this generosity of spirit and sweetness.
She was just graceful. Like it just oozed out of her, the gracefulness. And that's how Roma Downey is. She lives that way too.
My son was like 2, and Roma's daughter was about the same age. So sometimes her nanny would come and say, but these kids, my son could go play in their trailer with her daughter because the kids were bored. And so Roma had a very motherly, this is a family situation thing. And I think that really resonated with everybody for a long time.
I had my daughter on the series. I'm sure my pregnancy was a challenge. Many other shows they can write into that the character gets pregnant, but it really wasn't an option on Touched by an Angel. I carried very large sun hats. I carried big bags of shopping. I was standing behind car doors. I was leaning over couches.
Sit. Commander, could you help me out here?
Even though we thought we were being so clever, my face was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
There was real chemistry between Roma and Della, and people could see that, I think.
Della with her big, the higher the hair, the closer to God, right?
Roma and Della. There was a real mother-daughter relationship.
Are you all right?
A little bit.
Roma lost her mother very early as a child, and Della is just Earth mother to all, and the two of them had something special that had to be written to.
Della Reese became like a mother to me.
Oh, baby, there is great joy. Great joy. But God told us there'd be days like this, too.
I loved her with all of my heart. Our friendship lasted right up till the very end.
The moment she hit the set, it was always, well, hello, everybody, and there's this prayer, and she had this immense energy that was incredibly embracing.
The way she treated us was how she ended up showing up in the scripts as well. And we wanted that authority figure. She was the supervisor.
So you listen to me. Are you listening?
Later, when I met my husband, Mark Burnett, I warned him. I said, she's not a handshaker. She's gonna give you a hug, so be prepared. She said, that's my baby girl. And if you hurt her, I will have you killed. And he started to laugh, because he thought we're dark humor. And she said, oh, no, I'm not kidding.
Della is Della. What you saw on the screen was Della.
And John, when he was added to the show in the 3rd season, as the Angel of Death, he fit in very nicely. I mean, Della and Roma and John were a trio.
You are looking good.
No, baby, you know that you're the one who looks good.
Come on, baby, we got work to do.
All right.
John Dye. How perfect of a name is that for the angel of death?
And I think part of what made John work as the angel of death was his instinct that death is not something to be terrified of. It is a natural culmination of life. And I think he was able to capture that.
He was a true Southern gentleman. He was easy on the eyes. And, you know, you could only hope when your time comes that as lovely an angel as John Dye would show up for you.
John and I used to crack up all the time and tell jokes together. We'd look at these scripts and we'd go, wow, really? That's kind of corny, isn't it? That's kind of corny. What are we going to do with this?
And he just became the third member of our family.
So Touched by an Angel had a relatively small ensemble cast of our angels. But what that gave us was unbelievably big casting opportunities for our guest stars.
When you look back now at Touched by an Angel, you'll be astounded by the kind of A-list talent that were part of that roster. Folks like Bryan Cranston.
You're still gonna have to spend some time up in psychiatric. What?
We had brand new stars to be. We had Brie Larson,
So he lives in the boys' dormitory.
James Marsden,
You can't do that.
Oh, no? Who's gonna stop me?
Pedro Pascal.
What are you doing here? Aren't you a little old?
Watch it, Buster.
America Ferrara.
And you think, oh my gosh, I worked with Jack Black when he was just like, you know, a kid.
Really, never mind.
Hey.
We had movie stars on Touched by an Angel. Kirk Douglas.
There will be a bar mitzvah today. Mine.
And we say, really? You're gonna do this? Are you sure?
It's jaw-dropping. We had A-list stars, Carol Burnett, Debbie Reynolds, Ernest Borgnine, Debbie Allen, Oscar-winning people, Rita Moreno.
It's so good to be back.
And it wasn't just, like a good payday for them.
Hello.
It's because they wanted to be on.
But they had other people, long lists of unlikely and sometimes very interesting guest stars, like Muhammad Ali.
What's going on?
Mr. Ali is a friend of ours, Tim.
We had this wonderful opportunity to call people up and say, we want to do something with you. What do you care about? We went to Muhammad Ali, and he said, bullying.
Strength is not just about muscle. You have to know what you're fighting for.
Big actors, big athletes, big celebrities were open to hearing from us.
We had Dr. Maya Angelou. She just took my breath away.
Talk about a legacy. Maya Angelou wrote a poem just for our episode called Touched by an Angel.
Love costs all that we are and all that we hope to be. Yet it is only love which sets us free.
A lot of secular actors wanted to be on a show that had 25 million people watching it. It was great exposure. It was a quick commitment. They weren't coming on for like an extended arc. It was a one-shot deal.
Every week is a new case.
I love the fact that every week Touched by an Angel was set in a different location. It gave you as a writer a chance to explore entirely different worlds.
We never had the same set from week to week to week, and that was a huge challenge.
The challenges were we were in Salt Lake City. And so it was like, okay, how can you make Salt Lake City look like New Orleans or look like the Sudan?
One week we were shooting the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. The next week we were shooting Sally Ride in space.
We took one street of Salt Lake City and turned it into Beijing. And it worked. I mean, it worked beautifully.
The biggest challenge was always, can we keep the mountains out of the shot? Because once you saw mountains, that restricted you a lot. But Salt Lake City was amazingly versatile. And we did over 200 episodes.
We believed on the show that every episode needed a really good cry. And we wanted to guarantee that in every episode.
We had a classic 4-act structure. And if you know that at the end of Act 3, the dark night of the soul for your hero, someone dies, someone is in deep distress, you can work backwards and build story from that point.
There was always that moment where the angel revealed herself.
Who are you?
I'm an angel.
A what?
And it was sort of the heart and soul of each of the episodes. Whatever I had been wearing, it would change miraculously.
Monica?
Now I was wearing some sort of white dress, white and flowy. I had a little bit of extra light.
Holy is right.
And it was kind of an ethereal moment.
You could pick any episode. Act 4, when the heavenly lights would shine over the angels.
And there was a radiant glow behind her. As we in the room said, the glow job scene.
You're telling me you're an angel?
The revelation scene was the big moment on every show.
It was a deeply meaningful scene and moment.
That it was emotionally fulfilling to an audience to be weeping. Hopefully not because it was a terrible episode, but because it was emotionally moving.
If you can get people to laugh, cry, or have their emotions swell, that's a really effective way to do television. The revelation scene did that every time.
You sound like you got a real good case of the blues.
We used music in a way that most shows never did.
I remember street jamming with Justin Timberlake.
Hey, don't give up your day job.
It was always such an important part of it. From our opening song, Walk With You, sang by our great Della Reese herself. And Della got to sing in quite a few episodes. Music always woven so skillfully.
Martha's always loved music and loved bringing music into the show and hiring guest stars who were musical performers.
We had a tragedy once where our guest star could not show up, and we had to scramble and rewrite a show over the weekend. And I went to Della and I said, Della, can you sing as many songs as I throw at you? And she says, yeah, and we'll bring in my friends too. And we did a show with Della Reese, B.B. King, Dr. John, Al Hurt, Hal Linden. It was one of our best shows ever.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of music in Touched by an Angel, but not all just because of Della.
We did have country music stars come to us because they felt that was also their audience.
Wynonna was one of all of our favorites. It was our 100th episode that we filmed with her that was so powerful and poignant.
Happy birthday to you.
Mwah.
CBS wanted to do something special, of course, for the 100th episode, and it was always on my mind. It would be a songwriter who was struggling with something in her life. What would be the worst thing you could imagine is losing your own child.
This is it, Monica. I'm gonna lose my baby.
One of his wishes was to meet Celine Dion, and we actually went to Canada and worked with Celine, one of the great moments of our lives. And the last thing he really wanted was to see his mother write the song that had been in her head for so long and to complete that song.
All the colors of the rainbow.
And at the very end of the show, had that song singing just as that little boy went to heaven. And he broke all of our hearts.
And it was really so deeply touching. And to this day, if I catch a glimpse of that episode, it really just made me cry.
Do you know what it's like to get two superstars, Wynonna Judd and Celine Dion, to agree to be on the same show at the same time?
And it was great to celebrate that we had gone that far, especially first 2 seasons. Not sure the show's gonna get canceled, and then to earn a 100th episode is a beautiful thing.
Who is that?
When Valerie joined us very late in the show, she was just a breath of fresh air.
We needed a real shot in the arm. Valerie Bertinelli, my goodness. I mean, she was America's sweetheart for so many years. And she played a brand new angel who had just been created.
I'm homesick.
I know, baby, but you got a job to do here.
I really enjoyed working with Val, who played the role of Gloria.
I was excited when Valerie Bertinelli was going to join the show because, of course, she was bringing a whole new audience to the show who might not have been paying attention to it. But she was very open and wonderful. And I think she brought that honesty to her character.
As with all television shows,
It's going to be worse than I thought.
Yes. We better get going.
there's an end date. There's business aspects of the decision, audience size aspects of the decision. I just think it was ultimately time for it to go and for it to end.
CBS had just bought Sunday Night Football, and they kept running overtime, and that became difficult and unpredictable. People were saying, is touched on, is it not on? So it became a logistical problem as well.
There was a sweetness and a sadness to it ending up, really because we had all been on it so long. We had all become such a family. You know, I think everything runs its course.
It was the dream job. It was getting to write for female characters who had something important to say.
And it spoke to me that America loves having this place in their entertainment menu, that they welcome this. It was deeply satisfying to have the success of Touched by an Angel demonstrated, you know, week after week.
I think it was over 200 and something episodes we made, and maybe it was time to hang it up. But there was a lot of tears, of course, saying goodbye.
And so we knew that we were kind of winding down, and it might be time to say, let's take a look at where we're headed. So we weren't canceled. You can't cancel God. But it was really by a beautiful and lovely mutual agreement with the folks at CBS. It was time to say goodbye.
I think Touched by an Angel does still resonate 30 years on, because the timelessness of the core message will never go away.
All of us need to believe in ourselves and to believe in our community and to realize that all of us have the ability to make change. And that's what they told people on a weekly basis. You don't think things are good in your life now. I'm here to tell you, you can find a way to fix it, and I will support you. That's huge.
Touched by an Angel revealed that even when we thought the era of being able to pull off such an earnest, sincere, completely non-ironic program was over, Touched by an Angel proved that you can not only do that stuff, but people liked it, even though critics might have a hard time celebrating schmaltz. Sometimes schmaltz, if done well, can actually be interesting.
Along comes a show that was about faith and morals. This was slightly religious and obviously had an audience that really embraced it as something a little different than what else was on TV in that age of sarcasm. And I think that's one reason why it did quite well at the time.
And it did melodrama really well. I don't care what people say. Sometimes a good, manipulated cry is just what the doctor ordered.
We had a very unique show. Nobody ever quite knew what to do with it or how to categorize it. And that's okay.
With all due respect to the members of the press, it was your profession that really has been the least kind to us. But the people, in spite of what you wrote about us initially, have continued to watch and have watched in great numbers.
There were a lot of people who could have made a lot of fun, and they didn't.
Touched by an Angel was 2 female leads, and that was an important example of how female leads could actually carry a spiritual primetime drama. where up until then, we'd seen mostly men like Michael Landon, Highway to Heaven, as stars of these kinds of shows. So it did break new ground to that degree, and that was pretty astounding.
Very uncommon to have not one, but two female leads. And very uncommon to have female characters that like each other. Indeed, not just like each other, but loved each other.
Excuse me.
And so I think that gave it a particular heartbeat.
I mean, they were two women running a 1-hour drama for all that time. That was a big deal.
It seems almost every season someone's trying, God friended me, you know, God is my best friend, where's God? There's so many shows that try to get that secret sauce that Touched by an Angel has. And that's part of its legacy.
Perhaps the biggest impact on me personally was the fact that it saved lives. And I'm not hyperbolic about this. We received letters from people saying, I was going to do myself harm, and I heard that message on television, and I called for help. I called a suicide hotline.
To see in writing, the show changed my life. The shows helped us have a conversation in our family to address our mother's alcoholism.
No! I haven't had enough!
This helped me heal from the suicide of my child. Like, these were real people sharing the real impacts of a TV show on their lives.
What other show has done that? That's a massive thing to me.
So Touched by an Angel does have a legacy.
God has given you a second chance. Take it.
It's a legacy of individuals whose lives have been changed for the better.